Hi, Gino. Hi, Ricardo. Hi, Rigo. Welcome. Hey, Adrian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Welcome. Can you all see my screen? Oh, maybe not yet.
Yes.
Just give me a second. All right, welcome everybody. Let's take a look where we are. I modified the calendar just a bit. The A8, the note assignment that you're currently working. Remember, we moved the due date till this upcoming weekend. So you have till this upcoming Sunday to finish up. And Q5, that was last weekend. Let's see. So today we're gonna keep talking about the servers. We'll talk about also the database. We'll introduce schema and how to talk to a non-relational database, MongoDB, through a Mongoose API. Up to this point, we've been talking about being able to save state at the server level, right? Before we did it at the application and React. Then we saw that could not survive a refresh, so we moved over the state to the server and provided a RESTful API to be able to interact the React application and be able to send the state over to the server. But if you restart the server, you lose your state in the server. So we need to make the change permanent. So the only place to put that is in the database, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We'll keep working on the project prototype that I introduced. Was it last week, I believe? And I shared with you. I shared the source code with you. You'll feel free to reuse that code if you like, which includes both the front end React application and a back end middle tier. And today we're going to add to that middle tier. We'll add the long-term storage with a non-relational MongoDB database. Okay. So yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But we'll talk about a couple of design patterns that we go into much more detail in other courses. Today we'll just introduce it, just the minimum that we need to be able to be useful for us. And also we'll get started, very, very lightly or briefly on user management. I don't know if we're going to get to it today. Maybe we will. As a segue till next week on how to do user management, be able to maintain a conversation with the user, by being able to track user actions on the client, be able to keep track of what they're doing, keep track of that it's the same person that has registered with us, or has logged in, has identified themselves, right? And that will be the basis for managing user credentials, people creating accounts with our application. And so so this week we'll get started with that. Now that we have a database, right, we can store user information, profiling, things like that. Then it makes sense to start talking about those kinds of things, right? Also be able to store information that is particular to a person, like preferences, obviously profiles, but you know, that they liked something or they wrote something, right? Now we have a place to store it, right? So we'll get started this week. Definitely next week we'll do much more with a server-side state management, log it in, sign up. We'll do the whole thing, but we'll get started this week. Also next week, obviously it's Thanksgiving, so we'll only meet the first part of the week, and so we'll see how far we can get there. Also this week we'll introduce assignment 9, and that won't be due till the end of November. Although I'm okay with moving that due date to a little later, the week after. I wouldn't mind moving it to week 11. Since but I don't know. I didn't want to ruin your Thanksgiving, having to submit something over the holidays. Although it's I'll be totally okay if you want another week there. That's totally fine. But surely you should be considering focusing quite a bit on working on the project. Obviously, having set up a team and deciding what to do. You don't need to run by what is it going to be working on, as long as it meets the project requirements. You're free to do whatever you want, right? Let's see the question in the chat. Next week we do have classes on both Monday and Wednesday. Oh yeah, no, we do meet on Wednesday. Correct. Yes, it's the other course. We only meet on Tuesday. Okay, we won't meet with them on Friday. Yeah, that's fine. We'll make the recording the Wednesday recording. We'll make it available to the other section as well if they want to take a look at it. Yeah, so probably we'll get further down the line on implementing logging in and registering and modifying your profile and maintaining state and whatnot. Yes. What else? And so then week 12, that's definitely going to be dedicated to you folks working on the project. We can discuss a few other additional topics, or I was thinking that there would be maybe a Q&A where you post questions on Piazza about certain things that you might be struggling in the project, and then we can deal with those kinds of issues, real time in class, and solve it for everybody else. So also some more advanced database features that we might want to cover there. Some or some more advanced third-party API that we can play around with. So I'm just leaving it open that week number 12, depending on how the project is going. But definitely you should be focusing a lot on making a lot of progress in the project. Week 13, that's we'll meet the first week. The first half of the week we'll review the exam. The second exam will be at the end of that week. So Friday the exam will be made available. You'll have a weekend to complete that on your own. So that'll be our last day that we meet. So by that weekend the project should be complete. So by the end of week 13, week 14 will be when we're going to grade the project. And so all that week we're going to set up meetings with teams, and you'll have a chance to demo your project. to the TAs and myself. And so we'll put a whole bunch of slots where the teams can register for demos. So obviously we can't grade everybody at the same time, so we'll probably have to stagger the grading. So we'll grade some folks on Monday, then some folks on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and whatnot. We can't guarantee who's going to go first, last, or will be first come, first serve. So obviously some folks will be graded earlier than others. You're welcome to keep working on the project till the very last minute. So it is due on that weekend, but I don't mind folks keep working till the last minute. My concern is that you break something right before your demo, and we have very little wiggle room of giving you another chance, and it would be unfair also to other teammates, right? That are going to be graded that week. So make sure that you always have a working version of your project, and that you're not breaking at the last minute. Again, I don't mind you keep working, even though the due date is the week before. Yeah, let's see what else. Question. For those of us that cannot get the student developer pack, what should we do? Assignment 8. Since by the time it's gonna, yeah. So I'm gonna go over deploying this also on AWS. The assignment covers how to deploy it on Heroku, but I'm going to go over some slides that I'm going to make available for you to deploy it on AWS as well. So they do have a free tier that you can use. I'm not sure if they ask for a credit card as well, and it also there have been yeah, and also for my other course that I'm teaching, there's been an experience that some students, if you leave the server running for a while, even if it's idle, right, you're burning through cycles. So ideally, what we do is that you only deploy it for grading on that project week, right? Or for the, as long as the assignment, when the assignment needs to be graded, and that's it, right? So maybe just that 1 week or that particular, and the other TA, you can coordinate with TA, and so you can just turn on the server for it to be graded, as well as for the project when you're going to demo this, for your testing, and also when you're going to grade it, to turn on the server for us to, for you to demo it to us, right? So okay, so Cesar says that they do ask for a credit card. I'm not sure if they charge it. I'm pretty sure that if you stay within a limit, they don't charge you a credit card. But yeah, no, I would shut the server down. I do have on the slides, how to configure it so that it's dormant without destroying the server. You can make it dormant, and then you can bring it back up so that it's back in use. So yeah, I'll cover that, and I'll share the slides with everybody to use that instead. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna cover databases today. Let's see. So we're gonna be using the MongoDB database, and slides and the assignment go through how to download and install the Mongo database. Right. So the issue here is that we've been We've been first working on maintaining state on the client. We saw the limitations there. And so we identified the need to add a middle tier so that the client can put out, or share that information or the state of the application with a cloud API, right? Hosted on a server, running on first locally on your machine, but then deployed on AWS or Roku. And that's we can maintain the state there on variables within the server, and now then the client can survive a refresh, right? It can go fetch the state from the server, but then we saw that that too has its limitations. If you restart the server, then you lose all that information. Also, you're only limited by the memory of the server, right? Of the footprint of the server, which might be okay for one user, but if it's thousands of users, it's you can very quickly outgrow the footprint of your server, right? So really, the solution is to have a permanent data storage solution, right? So that's what we're choosing today. We're going to use a non-relational Mongo database. We can certainly use any type of database, right? There are libraries to integrate Node.js with all major databases, relational and non-relational. But we're going to stick to MongoDB. So we'll have all throughout the stack, we're going to be using JavaScript and JSON data representation, right? So all the way across the stack, we're going to have the data representation is going to be consistent across the entire stack. So MongoDB. So you're asked to download and install MongoDB. The community server is free, and when you install it, it installs a local instance that is running that on Windows and on Macs. You can install it as a service that will start up automatically when you restart your machine, listening at a standard port. Right? So if you search here for Mongo, there it is. So this is already started. You can restart it and figure it out whether you want it to be manual or automatic, to start automatically. You can do the same thing with Mac OS. So leave it like that, at least till the end of this course. By the end of the course, and you can stop the server. It does use resources, but it's very convenient to just have it on. So once you've started on Mac, it's also a good idea to add the wherever actually Mongo started or installed, to add it to the path if you want to run and work with Mongo from the command line. That's also useful. It's not necessary. Over here I say it's alternatively. You don't really have to, but it might be useful, right? To in some cases to run it from the command line, but you don't have to. The installation, when you install MongoDB, it also installs a graphical user interface that you can use to interact with Mongo, which is Atlas, or Compass, sorry. Compass. Oh, there it is. MongoDB Compass. So this is a graphical user interface that allows you to interact with it, by clicking and dragging and navigating through your data set. So from Windows, you can just search Mongo, and from Mac, you do command space or use a Spotlight, right, to search for Mongo, and you can run it locally, right? So by default, right, Mongo is already started as a service, and you can connect to it here from this client, right, from this graphical user interface. That will connect to the local instance of your database. So you can say connect. It'll connect to the server that is already running. And once you're connected, you can look at the local databases, Yeah, there might be there are going to be some default databases that are already there, like the admin and config and local, right? Those are all databases that are already created when you install the Mongo. But then you can create any number. You can say create database, right? And then you can give it a name. So for instance, Twitter or whatever it is that you're building, and then a collection. This is the equivalent of a table in relational databases. Here, we call them collections. In non-relational databases, we call them collections. Okay. So I've already created a Twitter database here, and my default collection is tweets. Okay, and here's a couple of tweets. You can create new data by say insert documents. In relational databases, we call them records, right? Or rows. You insert a row, you insert a record. In non-relational databases, we refer to the same kinds of things as documents, right? So here I've inserted several documents, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can insert new ones, insert, and it pops up a graphic user interface to insert a new document. And the format of the document is JSON, right? So it's friendly to the types of clients and middle tier applications that we're building. That is all JavaScript. So the format is friendly to the entire stack, right? So by default, it creates for you a primary key that has whose field is a underscore ID. And this is the reason I've been using underscore ID throughout the semester, right? From way back when you saw me use underscore ID everywhere when I had data. It's so that the code that we wrote, a couple months ago, right, is still forward compatible with the data representation, how we're storing this in the database. This primary key is of type object ID. That's the internal representation in MongoDB. And then you can add additional fields. So here's a tweet. First. And you can add a number of fields. Notice one thing that we did not have to do, right? If you've taken a database course, especially a relational database course, if you've taken it with me or whenever, you might have the very first thing that you do with a relational database is declare the schema, right? The structure of the data, right? No such thing here in non-relational database. There is no schema, right? So you can insert basically anything you want. And so some folks that might have done some databases before, you might balk at this and say, well, what do you mean no structure? Yeah, so that responsibility of maintaining the structure and validating and whatnot, all that is being moved over to the application layer, right? It's no longer the responsibility of the database to deal with those kind of things, right? I'm not going to get into too much into that. There's plenty of database courses that cover those kinds of topics in nitty-gritty detail. It's just to say that I really can insert whatever I want. So likes, false, and likes. Say. So yeah, so that's the brand new tweet that we've just inserted. You can delete this. Okay. So yeah, so you can also interact with the database manually, right? You can bring up this the shell program here, which allows you to select the database. You can say this by default, the name of the database is here is the currently selected database, but you can show the databases, show DBs. So these are all the databases of which we want to work with Twitter. So you can say use Twitter, and then you can show the collections. These are all the collections in there. Right now we only have the tweets collection, and then you can see what the content of the tweets is. You can find all the records. There they are. So these are all the records that have been inserted so far. We have here's the one that we just inserted a minute ago. And then you can retrieve content by doing db.tweets.find. .find is a command equivalent to select in a relational database, right? So .find allows you to retrieve all the records. It's like saying select star from tweets, right? And then it retrieves all the records. Or you can be specific on what is it that you want, right? You can give it a JSON object that specifies exactly what you're looking for. So you can say, give me all the tweets that liked is false, right? So it comes back with these two, right? So we'll do a pattern match and see if any of the properties match the a partial match on the JSON object that you pass it as an argument. Right, so you can do filters. This is the same thing as saying select star from tweets where liked equal false, right? So it'll come back with those two records. Okay. So the assignment walks you through those kinds of exercises, like connecting to the database and creating a database, inserting a couple of records, asks you to insert a few things. Also interact using the command line, just to get a flavor on how you can interact with it graphically, but also you can interact with it from the command line, right? So it gives you just a few exercises here. But what we really want to do is be able to interact with it programmatically, right? Not manually or through the user interface, right? We really want to create an application that can talk to it, right? So basically, that's what we're going to be focusing the rest of the today's lecture and Wednesday. How to interact with this database using Node.js, right? So let's bring up the project we were working with last week. So we had started playing around with a movie database, right? And we had implemented HTTP endpoints that allowed us to do all the CRUD operations with movies, right? We can retrieve all the movies, we can create new movies, delete a movie, update a movie, right? And we can create Postman scripts, right, that would exercise our HTTP endpoints, right? And the assignment, we asked you to implement a tweets controller that allowed you to do all the CRUD operations on tweets, right? On tweets. So let me break that up. Let's see. Open resume. I believe it's I must be this one. So yeah. So here's the movie controller that we played around with last week. Right here we have the data type that we are CRUDing is this array of movies that we can manipulate from the user interface using thumbs and services, blah blah blah, all that, right? By hitting these endpoints, right? HTTP localhost, right? //localhost 4000/movies. Allows us to retrieve all the movies, right? Allows us to create new movies, delete a particular movie, or modify a particular movie, right? And so we implemented all this, and then in the assignment we asked you to do the same thing, but with tweets, right? And that's the current assignment that you're implementing right now, and it's due later this week, right? So this assignment, what it asks you to do is to replace this array, right? Instead of using this array and storing it in the server's memory, to replace it with a database, right? So that's what we're going to learn how to do, right? So for instance, these records, let's move these records into a into a database here. So let's go and check out the databases. So let's create a database, and we'll call it the movies database. So let's call it movies. So let's do CS 56. Right, ball. FA. And so that's the database. Well, I guess that's the name of the database is CS extent fall 2022. But the collection is going to be movies. And let's see, there it is, right? So we have the movies collection, which is empty right now. So let's insert a few records in here. So let's insert avatar. And then we'll insert that. Something wrong. Oh, it's supposed to. Let's insert that. There we go. We have an avatar record. Notice the ID, underscore ID. It's compatible to the underscore ID that we've been using so far. So this code here is backwards compatible with that, right? Or forwards compatible. Let's make this so it's friendly with the database. The official syntax for JSON objects uses double quotes for everything. So I'm just going to make this friendly with the database. Right? So let's insert now Terminator. Insert another one here. Insert and comma. So there's Terminator. Let's insert aliens. So this is insert. Okay, and then Titanic. Okay, so we have those four. And so the idea would be, okay, so how do I replace this, right? So how do I, instead of using this, how do I use the database, right? So let's do that. So to communicate with the database, right? Well, I mean, somebody wrote this graphical user interface, right? So somebody already used a library that allowed us to communicate with Mongo, right? So how do they do it? So how do they write this graphical user interface to talk to a database? So they use one of many libraries that are out there. One of them is the Mongoose library, and that's where I'm going to be focusing our lectures. So if you go to Mongoose.js. So Mongoose.js is a library that allows you to connect. If you give it the URL of where your database is running, you give it the name of the actual database that you want to connect to, right? And boom, you're connected, right? So let's do that. So let's install the library. So we'll do terminal here. Let's see. We do have a branch. Master. So git status. If what did I change? Oh, okay. I just changed this sort of thing. So I'm just going to change to the A9 branch. I'm going to say git checkout B A9. Just move that. Okay. So I'm going to npm install Mongoose. Mongoose is the Mongo database library so that we can connect programmatically to the Mongo database. Okay. All right. So while that's happening, what we're going to do in the entry point of our database, we're going to load that library. We're going. Oh, goodness, what's so slow? I think it's done. Okay, so let's do that. So let's I'm going to import the Mongo database. So import Mongoose from service. Okay. So once we have that, we can connect to the database. Right after the import, we can say mongoose dot and connect. Oops. And so it's the Mongo database protocol and the port. Let me just copy this. There we go. The database that we're connecting to is the one we just created, which is CS5610 FA22. So CS and dash. So this should connect us to the database, and we can run this to make sure that's true. So we can say node app.js. It didn't complain, so it must be connected, right? Let me stop that. So now we need a place where we communicate with the actual database, right? So first of all, remember I said that the database does you don't have to specify the structure of the data, right? That you can basically store anything you want in the database. That the role of validation on whether the data that we are manipulating is the correct structure, the schema, right? That now has moved to the application. It is the application responsibility, right, to make sure that whatever we're storing in the database is of correct structure. Right? So to do that, we're going to create a schema that declares the structure of the database, from which we can then validate that the data that we are updating or inserting is valid. So I'm going to create here movies schema. So yes, that. So we'll say const and mongoose. Oh, no, we're going to do import, right? Import mongoose. There we go. And let's create a new schema. So this will be the movie schema. It's going to be mongoose dot schema, and the schema will be the title, and we know it's a string. And we're going to have a light, which is going to be Boolean. Now here you can give it the data type, or right, you can do it this way. Either way is fine. Right? So we say light Boolean. Now, if you just give it the data type, again, it's totally fine. But if you use the object notation like here, you can specify other things. So for instance, you can say that the default value is false. Right, you can say that. You can say things such as Professor, earlier you mentioned we don't need a schema in NoSQL. No, I said that then while we were using the graphical user interface to interact with Mongo, right, one of the things that you would expect is that you have to declare a schema, right? And we didn't have to. We were able to insert the records without the schema. Okay, so and that's very common in non-relational databases, that the responsibility of maintaining a schema or validating is no longer the responsibility of the database, right? It's very common in relational databases that but the first thing you do is that you declare the schema, and the database does the validation of whether the inserts and the updates meet the criteria of the schema. right? So what I said is that, yeah, it's no longer the responsibility of the database. Instead, that responsibility has moved over to the application layer, which that's where we are, right? We are at the application. And so here's where we're going to declare the schema and validate, make sure that, right, it's going back and forth is correct. Okay. So yeah, so here's title. You could just say string, and that's fine. But if you use this syntax, you can declare other things. You can say that this is required. Right? You can say required true. So you can specify, other configuration things about it, right? So let's see. We have the likes. Again, you can just say number. You say just number, or you can specify other things. Where you can say number, and that the default value is 0 likes. Okay. All right. So yeah. So schema takes first one argument. The first argument is the actual schema. The second argument is where or what table or what collection you want to store this in the database. So you can say collection. I want to store it in a schema called, which is exactly where we put it. Right? We put it in movies. Right. So yeah, so we'll do that, and then we're just going to export the default movie schema. All right. The other thing we need to declare is the API that we need to actually talk to the database, right? And so Mongoose provides a generic API that allows you to talk to any schema or any collection, right? Now they in Mongoose parlance, they call this generic API what they call the model, right? So let's show you that in a minute. So we'll say that this is a movies model. So we'll import Mongoose. We'll import the schema as well. So the movie schema, and we're going to create the movie model. And this will be mongoose.model. And so model takes I think it's model or is it models? Model, yeah. It takes two arguments. The first argument is an identifier, a string identifier that needs to be unique within the Mongoose instance. Right. So it's very typical that you just call this the what it actually is, right? It's a movie model. Now the second argument is the schema. So in this case, is the movie schema. Now movie models provides the API that allows you to do all the CRUD operations with the database, right? All the things that you would normally expect to be able to do, like this controller, right? This controller, we're able to create movies, retrieve movies, modify movies, delete movies. So this model, this object model, has functions such as find, right? That allows you to retrieve all the movies or retrieve a specific movie by a particular field, maybe by name or by title, by its unique identifier. Right? You have update. You can modify a record, and you can delete a record or remove a whole bunch of records or documents, right? And you can create or insert records into database. Okay? So we're not going to use it here. Instead, we're going to export this movie models. And so then what we're going to do is that we don't really want to use this low-level API, which is very generic. It's not specific to any one collection, right? Instead, we're going to wrap this in a higher-level object we're going to refer to as the DAO. Right, so this is a very common design pattern that is very popular in middle tier, multi-tiered applications, where you collect, all the operations that you're going to implement for interacting with the database, right, in one single place. So it's a very bad practice to just, whenever you want to interact with a database, to just write the code there and there, right? Instead, it's a good practice to instead encapsulate all those operations in one single class, right? So call this the movies DAO. And so here, basically what we want to do is implement all the CRUD operations that we need here in the controller, right? To create movie, final movies. So this controller is implementing the endpoints, right? But interacting with the local array. Instead, we want to interact with the database, right? So let's create all these operations in the DAO. So I'm going to follow the same naming convention that I use in the controller, so that I can easily then map, right, the database operations with the controller operations, right? So here we're going to say, export cons create movie is going to be a function that is going to use the movie model, right? Going to use the movie model. Then movie model has a generic create function, right? So we're going to pass it an object, a movie object, that better have the structure described in the schema. Otherwise, it'll be rejected. And so it has to have that schema. So I'm going to do movie, right? And then I'm just going to return here. I'm going to return the dot create. Now this create, right, is going to be very similar. The behavior of this create is going to be very similar to the way we talk to this this model, right? This movie models.create is the same way that the React.js application talks to the server, to the middle tier, right? That communication is asynchronous. Well, this communication with the database, this actually connects to the database, right? It sends this object over to the database, right? The server. But the server grabs this information and then inserts it into its collection. Okay, so that communication is asynchronous. Okay? So the same concerns and the same challenges that we have of talking from React.js over to talking to our middle tier, it's the same concerns that we have of Node.js middle tier talking to the server. Right? These are asynchronous communication. Now, the way we handled it from the React application over to the Node server was through a service. Right? Remember, we wrote a service. Let's see, said file. I think it was OMDB React. Must be this one. Let's see. Well, we created a service. So movie service, right? This one. Yeah, so this was create movie, right? Create an async communication, and then this made an Axios communication to our server, right? And then we got the response, data, blah, blah, blah. So this same this same strategy needs to be applied from the Node.js to the database, right? So we have two asynchronous calls, right? It's the React.js making the asynchronous call to the controller, our controller here. And then this guy is going to have to make a synchronous call out to the server. So this is asynchronous, so async, and this is it's going to come back with an actual movie inserted in the database. Right, so this is the actual movie that was inserted in the database. Now we don't have to do the HTTP protocol out to the server like we did from React.js over to our server. Internally, this .create makes the call, right? .create actually makes that call out to the server using its own internal protocol. The protocol is actually some other protocol, it's a MongoDB protocol, right? So it's a binary proprietary protocol. It's not an open protocol like HTTP, right? Or FTP or UDP. All those are open source public protocol, right? MongoDB is a private protocol which we don't have access to. So .create does that for us, right? We just need to know that it's going to be asynchronous. So once we have the movie, we can say we can just search on the actual. We also want to be able to find all movies. What do I call it in the controller again? So in the controller, I call it find all movies. So I'm going to call it the same way. So async, no arguments. So this is going to find all movies. So I'm going to await movie model dot has a find method. See that find method, right? This find method behaves identically on how we use this here. See that when I did a find, this find, what did this find over here? Dot find returns all the records. See that? Well, that is how this behaves, right? Find just retrieves all the records, and we have all the movies here. And we can just say return all movies. Yeah. All right. So yeah, and obviously we have to implement all of them. So at const delete movie. That maybe we have to implement const update movie. Implement all those. And we'll get to it in a minute. So notice that I've been following the same naming convention as in the controller. Right? Notice that the controller also defines the same kinds of functions. Now, and you might say, well, could we have just written this code just in here in the controller? And sure, I mean, we totally could have done that. Now, but it's not common. It's there's certainly that would break several best practices of division of concern, inversion of control. There's a whole bunch of reasons why not to do it, right? It's a bad architecture. It's best to have a class or object or set of functions or libraries, right? That do one thing and have a specific role, right? So for instance, all the functions here in the controller have the role of interacting with a service, right? That it's asking for information over specifically the HTTP protocol, specifically participating in a very well-defined client-server architecture, right? So it's a very specific role, and that's what the controller does, right? It's the front end, right, of the server that receives all the communication from the outside world, right? That's its role, and it understands HTTP. Things that data might be coming embedded in the body, or it might be encoded in the URL so that we can, parse the parameters from the URL or extract data from the HTTP body. So this controller is very specific tier that knows how to interact with the HTTP world, right, and with the client server world. The DAO also is going to be part of is going to have a very specific role of interacting with another tier, right, with another part of the infrastructure, which is the database, right? So the controller's responsibility is to talk to the HTTP world in a client-server application architecture. The DAO's responsibility is to talk to a low-level database API, right, and encapsulate that low-level role, encapsulate in a higher-level API to the rest of the application, right? So you would not mix and match the implementation of these two, right? Certainly, there's many more things that this could be improved. We could wrap this instead of a class or a function. I'm not going to get into that. Certainly, we could do error handling. So I'm also, we could, certainly add TypeScript to make this more robust. But that's the topic of an entirely different course. Yeah, so we're receiving movies, whatnot, blah, 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 right? So now we could start rewriting or refactoring our controller to use this API instead, right? And start abandoning the use of this array, right? So if we import the DAO here, import the movie DAO. Oh wait, did we? So all the movie DAO from. So I'm going to import all the functions that are being exported by movies DAO, right? And I'm going to call it locally as a map, all inside movies DAO. So for instance, create movie. So I have this movie object. Right? I'm no longer going to use the array. Okay, and instead I'm going to use movie DAO.create movie. I'm going to pass it the movie object that came in the body, and I'm just going to call it here, right? Pass it. Now notice that we need to change this because we were talking to a local array, so I can manipulate this array synchronously. But now instead we're going to be talking to create movie, which is asynchronous. So we better put here async, and in this it's going to give us the actual movie here. Await, and we can return the movie. Same thing with find all movies. We can make this async, and we can retrieve all the movies. So const all movies is going to be the movie DAO. Find all, and we're going to wait there, and just send back all the movies. So notice that we're no longer using the array there. See that? Let's see. So let's just try these two. Let's just try these two functions. Right? So let me start the server. Okay, I start the server. And I'm also going to start the web application. Say start. Okay. So ideally, this will behave identically to how it was behaving before, right? It's going to go out to the server. It's going to retrieve a list of movies. The difference here is that instead of the server grabbing the data from an array, right, it's going to grab them from the database. Okay. So let's see. Hopefully this won't break. And see where it's running. Should be coming up on my browser at some point. There it's still loading. It's taking a while. So it's taking so long. There we go. Okay. Where are my movies? Oh wait, search. Oh, and this console did not fetch. Connection refused. Oh, is my server not running? Maybe that's what it is. So we start the server. Oh yeah, I need to run that. Go back here. Refresh. Still white. Let's see. Network. Pending. Ooh, looks like it did go out, but the server never responded. Let's see. So no server. Ooh, it crashed. Oh my goodness, what's going on? Mongo, blah 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 blah. Mongo, yeah yeah yeah. New server, blah blah blah. Server, yeah yeah yeah. Oh, so it looks like it's complaining about the connection. Okay, failed. Connection refused. Error. Blah 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 blah. Cause error connect. Oh, is my server not running? Let's see. Fine. No, it is there. What's going on? Connection refused. Why are you not connecting? Server. Blah 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 blah. Mongoose server selection error. Connect. Econ refused. New promise. Mongoose promise. Unknown type. Promise follow. Local host. 27. Yeah. Mongo localhost 2717. See that where it's connecting? 2717. It might be missing some configuration. Let's see. Back here. Did I miss something? Let's see. Neural Express, blah, 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 React One API. No. MongoDB, Mongoose. Let's get some configuration. It tests me the authentication code. So I think I might have missed a some configuration. No, it's not. I'm not missing any configuration. Just a connection string. Let's see. We are in new blah blah connection. Now only connection refused. See if I can find something. Okay, so they're suggesting some configuration. Okay, so it might be that I need some options. I'll copy some of these options. So here are the options. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. New define server timeout. Duplicate. Okay, it's twice. Okay. And timeout. Yeah. Okay, let's try it out. So comma options. Let's try it again. There we go. Yeah, I was missing a few configurations. All right, so notice that this information is coming from the database, right? So notice the IDs. These are not the IDs 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, the dummy IDs that we were working with earlier, right? Instead, these are IDs that were generated for us in the database. Also notice the default values, right, that we configured in the schema. We said that the liked records were going to be false, right? Likes are 0. Well, actually, no. These were from the Mongoose, right? The MongoDB that we had created here that didn't have values for it. See that? Notice that we did not add these. So by default, right? The schema responds with the default values that we gave it if it's missing, right? So let's try creating a new one. We had Postman that allows us to create new. Actually, no, we have the user interface. Let's see if the user interface is working now, right? Let's try and put this. Let's refresh. There they are, right? So these are the 4 records that were same records that we hit with the URL, right? These are coming from the database. Let's try creating a new movie. Let's do a create. Let's see if this blows up. Let's create it. Let's refresh to see if it's there, actually there. Yeah. So let's go. If you go to the database and refresh, Notice that indeed we were able to insert that new movie with the default likes, the default likes as false, right? So that's working. That's perfectly working. Perfect. How about the other commands, right? That we want to update, right? So for instance, in the model, right, we have the default generic implementation, but in the DAL, we are wrapping that around the model with something a little higher, right? So the delete movie, for instance, will need for us to provide the ID of the movie they want to remove. We're going to use the movie model dot delete. Now, delete has several versions in Mongo. You can remove a unique record, right? That you know that there's only one of them. And it's safe, right? That you don't inadvertently remove a whole bunch of records if what you give it matches a whole bunch of records, and you didn't really want to do that. You really want to just remove one, delete one, make sure that it removes the first one that it finds, right? But you're guaranteed that it'll remove only one. Ideally, what you're removing actually is just one thing, because that was what you meant to do. And then it takes as argument the a pattern match of what it is that you want to remove, right? So for instance, we want to remove it if the underscore ID, right, matches the movie ID that you pass it. Okay. Now the movie ID here, if you remember, oh, what? Oh crap! My battery's down, but I plugged in. Yeah. Well, it says it's charging. 19 minutes. Okay, I think that should be enough. Yeah, even though ID is of data type on your object ID, Mongoose knows how to convert the string that you give it into the low level object ID data type. Okay, so this is going to come back with a status, and we're just going to return the status. Oh, and we have to put in a wait. Right? So this has to be async, and this has to be a wait. And going to return that, and then the controller, we can use that and use this instead. We write this, let's say, this is going to be async, and we're going to use the movie model of movie DAO dot delete movie, and we're passing the MID. We're going to get back as a status of whether it was successful or not, and we're going to return the status. Okay. So let's see if that works. Let's restart the server. So this will be terminal. I'm going to stop, and restart. And so we refresh. Notice that notice that even though we restarted the server, notice that we did not lose. We didn't go back to the original set of movies because we're no longer using the array, right? Instead, we're going out to the database. So these changes are permanent, right? Which is great. That's exactly what we wanted. So if we say, I want to remove this. I don't know if we actually implemented this. Let's refresh. Refresh to see if the delete worked. Okay, looks like it worked. Let's see if that is the case in the database. If we refresh, we'll notice it's gone. Okay. All right, excellent. So got 3 out of the 4 CRUD operations. Let's do update. So update in the DAO is, and again, it's going to be asynchronous. We need the ID of the movie that we want to remove. Also, we need the movie updates. And so we're going to use movie model dot has an update, and this too has a one and a many version, right? So many, if it's, you know that you're going to be updating lots of records, right? Say I want to give all my employees a raise, right? So I want to change everybody's salary by an amount, or customers that have been loyal customers, I'm going to give them a discount, right, based on the years that they've been my customer, right? So I could do that. Or if you know and you want to guarantee that only one record is being updated, you can use update one. Right? So update takes two arguments. So the first argument is the pattern match of letting me know which record do you want me to update. Right? So this looks very much like what we did for the delete. Right? So we're going to say, well, it's the one that matches the ID. That's the one I want to update. Right? Now, the second argument is, what are the updates? What do you want to modify? Right? What do you want to change? And so our original implementation was to merge the two. Right? That's how we implemented it in the controller. Right? We in the update, right? We found the record in the array. So we found the record in the array. And then we were going to modify that one record, right? In the model, that is accomplished by update one and then the ID of the document that you want to modify, right? Which is the equivalent of this here, right? Now this merging, it also can be done in the database, right? So this merging of, leave alone the properties that I'm not going to modify, just leave them alone. Just I want the old values, but the ones I am updating, I want to override the value of a subset of the records. So that can be accomplished very easily here by using the set operator, the set, all lowercase, set. So set takes this argument, a map of which fields do you want to modify, right? And then merge it with, it will only modify those records, those fields, right? All the other fields will leave it alone. But those fields are being updated. I mean, that's exactly what movie updates has, right? Movie updates has that, I used to like this movie, but I don't like it anymore. Then it will change only that field, right? So I can just provide here the object, the movie updates, because it already is a map. Right? It already is a map of the subset of the fields and the new values, right? So that's very easy. Okay. So all this is going to return a status of whether this was successful or not. Uh-oh. Hi, everybody, still there? Hi, sorry about that. My laptop died in the middle of let me share the screen again. Can you all see my screen? Okay, sorry about that. Let me get back where it was. Okay. What was I saying? We were doing the updates, right? Okay, so yeah, so here's an update that is using the movie model, and this is going to be a status of whether the update was successful or not, and we're just going to return the status. Okay. Then in the controller is just a matter of replacing using the working with the array, and instead working with the AO instead. So we can say that this is going to be async, and we're going to receive the updates here, the status, from using the DAO to do the update of the ID, movie ID, and we're going to pass in the updates, right? And then we're just going to respond with these steps. Yeah, okay, so let's see, let's restart the server. Okay, here's the server restarted. I don't remember if we had implemented the React update here. Let's see. Maybe we had implemented the likes. I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Let's inspect, see if it's going to send anything. So there's the network. Clear this. We're going to like this. We'll send a like. Okay, so it's going to do the thunk of liking. Looks like we don't have a movie ID. Like. So I don't think that works. Let's see. Source. And let's see, how do we implement this on the React? Let's see, movie reducer, blah blah, service done. The OMDB search index here it is, right? So create movie. And liking the movie. Let's see, the user movie like done. Pass in the MID and the IMDb. Okay. Yeah, we don't have an IMDb. We have an ID, right? So we have a movie ID, FAD, not IMDb. Let's try that again. So put a breakpoint there. Let's like avatar. There it is. So there's the ID and the movie. So user likes movie. Let's continue. See what happens. And the network. So went out as a post. Wait, I think it's supposed to be a put, no? Let's clear that. Let's try it again. Continue. Network. And, oh, it's a post. That's wrong, right? Let's see in React. the service, the update. Oh, we never implemented the update. Really? This is really fun. Update. And which fine. Oh, but then which one are we using here? This update likes really fun. Oh, okay, it's this one, the likes. Okay. Here's a service. There it is. Oh, it's this one here. Okay, it's supposed to be a put, not a put. Oh, you know why we went with a post? Because we were going to insert a like. Right? We were going to insert. That's why. That's right. Okay, so leave it like that. Let's leave it like that. Let's leave that. So to do that, that means that we need to create a relationship between a user and a movie. So for that, we need to be able to represent likes. So in the server, right, we need to represent likes. For these movies and these likes, which we did not implement. Just that we were playing around with controllers, but we never get much further. So here we would implement schema for the likes, and we would need a likes and we need a likes collection. Right? So we would create a new collection called likes. And we would need also a representation of users that like. So this would be users. Okay. And so if I have a user here, and let's have a user whose username is Alice. Okay. Then I could say that this would have likes. Let's see. I need the idea of an actual movie. Let's see if we have an idea of an actual movie. Yes, we can hit here morale. So these are all the movies. And so we can say likes. Maybe a different user. Let me copy that ID. That user. I can say let's create a brand new like that says that user ID or user. And then the ID of that user likes the movie, this particular movie. So this would be avatar. So Alice likes, and we insert that. So that's one like. This person liked that movie. This would help prevent people from liking the movie again. Right? So the server, for instance, would receive the request that Alice likes this movie. We would check first to see in the database to see if Alice has already liked this movie. If she already has liked it, then she won't be able to like it again. And we could also track dislikes. So this would be dislikes. And then and then allow folks to dislike. Now you could say that perhaps these would have to be these would have to be mutually exclusive, right? That if I liked something before and I dislike, then that means that I would have to bring down, remove my likes, right, and then bring up my dislikes, right? So that if you have tons of people disliking it, and you're entering records saying that you dislike it, but you can't at the same time like it and dislike it, the same person, right? But lots of folks can dislike it, and a whole bunch of people can like it, but they can change, their minds, right? So they would be computed independently what the counts might be in the database. Right. Also, you can have thousands of people, liking the movie at the same time, and we have to deal with that. So anyway, so this is a little more involved. Also, it involves having to represent users. And this is where the segue is going to be on Wednesday when we talk about representing users, like creating accounts, representing usernames, passwords, maintaining sessions, and then having each user store information about that particular user, right? So that Alice likes all these movies, but Bob likes some other movies, right? And Charlie dislikes some movies and likes some other movies, right? So we like to be able to, if I log in as Alice, I like to retrieve all the information about Alice. If I log in as Bob, I want to see all the information about Bob. I don't necessarily see everybody else's profile information. I can navigate, to their profile and see what information they might have, or we might be friends, right? Where maybe Alice follows Bob, so Bob can see Alice's stuff, right? That is her profile, or vice versa, and then they can DM each other and blah blah blah. So anyway, so that's going to be the topic starting Wednesday, and it's going to spill over to next week. How to deal with profile information, user information, and whatnot. Yeah, all right, thank you. Sorry about the hiccup, but yeah, we'll recover. And so we'll work on updates and relating it to the rest of the other, let's say, questions. Are you holding? Yes, tomorrow at 8 a.m. is up. Yep. All right, folks. Thank you.